Hello everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 to Stay Alive for August 2018. Well, summer is in the thick of things, and you know what? It's August. That means that kiddies will be going back to school real soon. So let's begin. I want to start off with something. And I want to say, well, isn't that special? You see, the drug industry's moneymakers aren't out to cure a major disease. Heck, they're not even interested in providing just a little relief from a part of a disease. No, the big thing now is drugs that fix problems, which is the drugs that created the problem in the first place. They're making you pay through the nose for toxic meds that poison you, and then essentially forcing you to pay up a second time for an antidote. It's like the small-time mob racket. But I'm here to get you out of this business for good and make sure that you never get pulled back in. You've seen how those goons on television show up to demand protection money, and if you don't pay up, well then the next day you find your window smashed. Yes, you need protection, all right. You need it from them. Well, friend, Big Pharma has the same racket going on right now. It gets you to take a med you probably didn't even need in the first place, like one of those powerful new blood thinners that have quickly earned a reputation as some of the most dangerous meds of all. When these drugs do something awful to you, when you find yourself on the wrong end of those terrible side effects, when they threaten your life, well, guess what? You go to the hospital where the fix is in. Big Pharma gives you a second drug that essentially is the antidote for the first. But this isn't one of the Godfather sequels or an episode on The Sopranos. This is real life. And it's so dangerous that you may want to consider entering a witness protection program just to avoid getting put in the crosshairs. The FDA just approved a drug called Andexxa, which reverses the effects of XA inhibitors, a class of blood thinners that includes Xarelto and Eliquis. You see them on TV all the time in the commercials. As a company that makes Andexxa celebrated the approval, it fired off some jaw-dropping numbers saying that those XA inhibitors caused 117,000 hospital admissions and some 24,000 deaths in 2016 alone. Ladies and gentlemen, that's like a jumbo jet crashing and killing everybody on board every week. This isn't even the worst example of this ugly racket in action. A few weeks earlier, the FDA signed off on Praxbine, an antidote to the blood thinner Pradaxa. In this case, the company that also makes the original drug is also the company that makes the antidote. That's convenient, all right, but how is that even legal? And just last month, the feds also approved a drug to cure hyperkalemia, or too much potassium in the blood. That doesn't happen from eating too many bananas or from taking cardio for life. In most cases, it's caused by drugs, often beta blockers, ACE inhibitors, angiotensin II receptor blockers, all these taken for high blood pressure. Of course, this cure drug has side effects of its own. It can lead to the scary fluid buildups of edema in more than 1 out of 10 of the people who take it. Sometimes edema goes away on its own, but sometimes you need, guess what? Another drug like a diuretic to take care of it. Now you're on a med for the side effects of a med that you took for the side effects of another med. Talk about a racket. If you want real protection, avoid taking the very first drug that started this whole chain reaction in the first place. In most cases, you can get by with natural therapies under the guidance of a doctor who knows how to cure, not just show you a medicine, which is all they are taught in med school, and then reinforced by pharma goons that buy the doctor's lunch, dinner, and give them free trips. What a racket. I want to get in on that, boy. I'll tell you. By the way, there's no side effects to Cardio for Life, so I can't sell you a second product. All right, now topics 2 and 3. We're going to cover 2 topics here because it's a little bit longer than normal. It's basically under the name The Corruption of Evidence-Based Medicine and Killing for Profit. You see, anytime you go to a doctor and you show them like Cardio for Life, what's the first thing they say? Well, it doesn't have the proof. There's no science behind it. You know, this drug that I'm prescribing for you, the gold standard FDA. Well, let's look into this a little bit. The idea of evidence-based medicine is great. The reality, though, not so much. Human perception is often flawed, so the premise of evidence-based medicine is to formally study medical treatments, and there have certainly been some successes. Consider the procedure of angioplasty. Doctors insert a catheter into the blood vessels of the heart and use a balloon-like device to open up the artery and restore blood flow. In acute heart attacks, studies confirm that this is an effective procedure. In chronic heart disease, the COURAGE study and more recently the ORBIT study showed that angioplasty is largely useless. Evidence-based medicine helped distinguish the best use of an invasive procedure. But, so why do prominent physicians call evidence-based medicine mostly useless? The two most prestigious journals of medicine in the world are The Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine. Richard Horton, editor-in-chief of The Lancet, said this in 2015. The case against science is straightforward. Much of the scientific literature, perhaps half of it, may simply be untrue. Dr. Marcia Angeli, former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, wrote in 2009 that it is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines. I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I reached slowly and reluctantly over 2 decades as an editor. This has huge implications. Evidence-based medicine is completely worthless if the evidence base is false or corrupted. It's like building a wooden house knowing the wood is termite infested. What caused this sorry state of affairs? Well, Dr. Relm, another former editor-in-chief of New England Journal of Medicine, said this in 2002. The medical profession is being bought by the pharmaceutical industry, not only in terms of the practice of medicine, but also in terms of teaching and research. The academic institutions of this country are allowing themselves to be paid agents of the pharmaceutical industry. I think it's disgraceful. These are the people in charge of the system. The editors of the most important medical journals in the world gradually learn over a few decades that their life's work is being slowly and steadily corrupted. Physicians at universities have allowed themselves to be bribed. The examples in medicine are everywhere. Research is almost always paid for by pharmaceutical companies, but studies done by industry are well known to have positive results far more frequently. Trials run by industry, 70% more likely government-funded trials to show than government trials to show positive results. Think about that for a second. If evidence-based medicine says that 2 + 2 is 5 is correct 70% of the time, would you trust this sort of science? So here's a damning list of all the problems of evidence-based medicine. Get your pencil out. You might want to write these down. Number 1, selective publication. Negative trials, those that show no benefit for the drugs, are likely to be suppressed. For example, in the case of antidepressants, 36 out of 37 studies that were favorable to drugs were published. But of the studies not favorable to the drugs, a paltry 3 out of 36 were published. Selective publication of positive results by drug companies means that a review of literature would suggest that 94% of studies favor drugs where in truth only 51% were actually positive. Suppose you know your stockbroker publishes all his winning trades but suppresses all his losing trades. Would you trust him with your money? But yet we trust evidence-based medicine with our lives, even though the same thing is happening. Number 2, rigged outcomes. If you measured enough outcomes, something was bound to come up positive. Even a broken clock is right twice per day. Number 3, advertorials. Doctors trust the New England Journal of Medicine to publish quality, unbiased advice, but have no idea that a review article they are reading is pure advertising. Yet we still consider the New England Journal of Medicine to be the very pinnacle of evidence-based medicine. To allow an editorial to be published as the best scientific fact is scandalous. Instead, as all the editors of the journal sadly recognize, it has become a lucrative-based publishing. More money, better results. Number 4, reprint revenues. If a company publishes an article in the New England Journal of Medicine, Big Pharma may order several 100,000 copies of the article to be distributed to unsuspecting doctors everywhere. These fees are not trivial. The New England Journal publisher Massachusetts Medical Study gets 23% of its incomes simply from reprints. The Lancet, get this, 41%. The American Medical Association is gut-busting 53% of their income. No wonder these journals are ready to sell their readers, ordinary physicians, down the river. It pays. Who needs journalistic ethics when there's a Mercedes in the driveway? Mo money, baby. Mo money. Number 5, bribery of journal editors. Of all journal editors that could be assessed, 50.6% were on the take. The average payment in 2014 was $27,564 each. This does not include an average of $37,330 given for research payments. This is slightly horrifying. Each editor of the Journal of the American College of Cardiology received, on average, $475,072 personally and another $119,407 for research. With 35 editors, that's about $15 million in bribes to doctors. No wonder the Journal of the American College of Cardiology loves drugs and devices. It pays the private school bills. Mo money. We'll publish your cricket studies for you. Mo money, baby. Mo money. Number 6, publication bias. The evidence-based medicine depends upon is completely biased. Some people think I'm really anti-pharma, but this is not really true. Big pharma companies have a duty to their shareholders to make money. They have no duty to patients. On the other hand, doctors have duty to patients. Universities have duty to remain unbiased. It is the failure of doctors and universities to keep their greedy paws out of corrupting influence of big pharma money that is the problem. If big pharma is allowed to spend lots of dollars paying off doctors and universities and professors, then it should do so to maximize its profits. That is their mission statement. Doctors love to blame big pharma companies because it takes people's gaze off the real problem. Lots of doctors taking dollars for anybody who will pay. The big pharma industry is not the problem. Bribery of university doctors is the problem, and one that is easily fixed if the political will exists. Financial conflicts, the last one, also known as gifts to doctors, is a well-accepted practice. A national survey in the New England Journal of Medicine 2007 shows that 94% of physicians had ties to the pharmaceutical industry. This gravy train only rides in one direction, from big pharma to the wallets of doctors. Sure, big pharma can simply pay doctors directly, and it does plenty of that, and it's no surprise that medical students with more exposure to pharmaceutical reps develop a more positive attitude toward them. What you thought people teach at prestigious institutions like universities is for the good of mankind? Maybe that's why they went there, but that's not why they stay there. They came for the science, they stayed for the money. When the evidence-based medicine is bought and paid for, people die. That is how doctors have created this opioid crisis that kills thousands of people. Pharmaceutical companies want to pay off doctors, just as a drug lord wants to pay off judges, police officers. Doctors, being human, should not put safeguards against this temptation. Unfortunately, doctors and universities have been willing participants in this game of killing for profit. We need to end it now. Even the corruption of universities. Stop the bribery of doctors. Whew. Topic number 4, Nuplazid. Leave it to Big Pharma to take a bad situation and make it 1,000 times worse. Around 40% of those with Parkinson's disease are said to suffer from hallucinations and delusions. So enter Nuplazid, a drug that was recently approved to lessen Parkinson's psychosis. But here's the trouble. It doesn't work. And that may be the least of it because the FDA has compiled a list of over 700 people who died while on it. And in 500 of those deaths, Nuplazid is the only suspect medication those patients were taking. Giving the green light to Nuplazid represents the worst of the worst when it comes to the slipshod, fast-track drug review process that the FDA conducts. And despite the current safety review that the agency claims to be doing, this med is still being prescribed as if it were some magic potion and as safe as a lollipop. Knowing the Nuplazid story is something that all caregivers for Parkinson patients urgently need to be aware of. And even if this terrible disease hasn't hit someone in your immediate family, please share this very important information with your friends and relatives. It could well mean the difference between life and death. After years of failing studies dating back to 2005, Acadia, the manufacturer, instead of ditching this worthless and incredibly risky med, the drug maker asked the FDA officials if the agency would consider approving Nuplazid if it tried one more time to find any shred of benefit. Remember the broker. Surprise, surprise, not only did the agency agree to that, but it gave Acadia a speed pass to zip through the FDA, saying that this drug deserved breakthrough status. 700 people died. On top of that, it lowered the bar for practically everything that was done during the trial, from how symptoms were measured to what benefits were considered acceptable. In the end, it looks like when the FDA officials gave Nuplazid their blessings less than 2 years ago, even though there were reports of hundreds of deaths during the drug trials. Right now, the drug maker is doing everything in its power to sell as much Nuplazid to Parkinson's patients as it possibly can. From disguising scary drug ads as public service announcements to providing checklists about delusions and hallucinations for patients to print out and take to their doctors. But it gets worse, because those at risk aren't just Parkinson's patients. Unbelievably, Acadia is now looking at other applications for this drug, perhaps as a general antipsychotic or even specifically for those with Alzheimer's. And regardless of what it finds, as it stands now, any doctor can prescribe this med off-label for whatever condition it wants. You got acne? Nuplazid. That's why we need to do everything we can to stop them. And you can do that by making sure anyone you know who's caring for a patient with Parkinson's is warned about Nuplazid. Whatever the FDA decides to do when it completes its so-called safety review probably won't be worth a wooden nickel. So it's up to you and us to step up to the plate and sound the alarm as loud as we can. Topic number 5. Smell something fishy? There's nothing wrong with your nose. That's the foul odor, is the stench of big pharma muckety-mucks trying to become the biggest fish in the omega-3 sea. And they're doing it in the most underhanded way possible. They're attempting to force the competition out of the ocean altogether. And the feds are helping them do it. Here's what you need to ride the wave away from what's rotten in the state of Big Pharma. Because what it's offering as a replacement for your safe, affordable, and widely available omega-3 supplements is an entirely different kettle of fish. You know how Big Pharma works by now. It's not good enough for treatment to work. It's not even good enough for it to be profitable too. Because by those measures, fish oil would be a wild success story. It can protect the heart, the brain, the eyes. It's available at a price point that's both affordable for consumers and profitable for an ethical company. Now, no natural medicine will ever be a whale of a moneymaker, since it can't be patented and sold exclusively by one company. But Big Pharma can't just be profitable. It has to be insanely profitable, potentially able to generate billions. It is interested in any old catch of the day. It's got bigger fish to fry, much bigger, so it's pushing a drug called Vasipa. You see the TV, Vasipa, whatever. A synthetic version of fish oil to help cut triglyceride levels. But here's the trouble. It's missing half of what makes your fish oil supplements so good for you. See, fish oil contains 2 main omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. This new drug, however, is a synthetic version of the full fish oil, and it contains only EPA. And the sales pitch for it is all about scaring you away from the other half that is missing, the DHA that you need. Apparently, according to those pharma wackadoodles, fish oil is now unproven despite decades of research behind healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Specifically, they say their drug companies only use purified EPA, unlike unproven fish oil supplements that may contain DHA and saturated fats. Never mind that a DHA is polyunsaturated and B, saturated fats are good for you. But they're still not done. They've somehow gotten the FDA to say that fish oil should be limited to just 3 grams a day, while their magical drug form of EPA can go up to 4 grams a day. I could write a book about all the problems with marketing material behind Vasipa, but I don't want to waste your time or my time or yours. It boils down to this: if you don't need expensive drugs that aren't as good, pack more risks, and cost 10 times the price or more, then get rid of them. Fish oil is just as fine as it is, even with DHA and some saturated fats. Just read the label closely to ensure you're getting mostly EPA and DHA. And if you're having problems with your triglycerides in general and unproven fish oil alone doesn't bring them down, I've got a second option for you, and that is taking Cardio for Life twice a day. Studies show that arginine-derived nitric oxide, as found in Cardio for Life, can lower triglyceride levels as well as cholesterol levels. Oh, and can I also remind you that Cardio for Life contains omega-3? We do not use fish oil, but something called perilla oil, which is derived from a Japanese plant, and it's much better than fish oil. It contains both EPA, DHEA, and you're not burping up fish. And you don't have to worry about the mercury content because there is none. And now to my favorite part of today's session, that's testimonials. Dr. Harry, one of the ladies who gets Cardio for Life faithfully, had her echocardiogram done last week. 4 weeks ago, they found a moderate leaky valve. When she told me, I suggested Cardio for Life for her, and she was taking it ever since. Every year, they wanted to do a check on her. They did a check at year 3, and it was not worse. So they skipped a year and did it this year. She still has not gotten any worse, so now she gets to skip the yearly test and go for 2 years before getting the next one. Needless to say, she is very happy. Thanks for making great products. Thank you for that, Shirley. Dr. Harry, I had a Doppler echocardiogram done as well as my carotid arteries checked last week. The results came in. My heart valves have improved a great deal. My blood pressure is down as well. It was never high, but went down even more. The arteries in my heart and neck are good. I'm ecstatic, as in November I was diagnosed with severe heart valve stenosis and was told I had a heart event or attack as well because of blockage. My heart ejection went up from 40 to 60, which is now normal. No further testing is needed, and I do not have to go back to the conventional cardiologist for a year. I take 0 drugs, and in November, the conventional doctors were pushing for stents to be installed and my heart valves to be replaced. I do not need any of that anymore, and I believe that Cardio for Life cleaned out my arteries, made them more elastic, and repaired my heart valves enough to where I did not need the surgery. I still have a minor heart murmur, but I had that for 40 years without any symptoms, and that has gotten better as well. I do expect my heart valves to heal even further, as I've been taking Cardio for Life for less than 4 months and doing other alternatives as you have recommended. Thank you for that, Victor. And finally, Dr. Harry, I recently performed a non-invasive ANS cardiac test on a new 72-year-old patient that was presented to my clinic with horrible peripheral vascular disease. Her initial cardiac output was 3.3 liters per minute, and her blood pressure was 154/90 with an SVR of 1850. Normal is 1200. After consuming 1 scoop of your Cardio for Life product in an 18-ounce glass of Fiji water, I waited 45 minutes and repeated her cardiac ANS test. Holy moly! To my surprise, a reduction in her blood pressure to 127/78, a cardiac output of 4.5 liters per minute, and her SPR of 1350 prompted me to ask this well-educated client, where did you obtain that remarkable product? She informed me that a dear friend in Dallas, Texas, gifted it to her. Well, I'm communicating to you to inform you that my daughter has a master's degree in biochemistry, and I plan to conduct extensive double-blind study with 50 patients over the next year with your product. Yay! I'm so excited about cardiac research that I can't sleep. My secretary will order a dozen of peach and pina colada flavored containers. Thank you so much for your research and tenacity in educating Americans on heart disease and stroke prevention. It's my passion as well. It's truly an honor and pleasure to be able to share your life's research with thousands of patients over the next 2 to 5 years and beyond. Yeah, let's go beyond 2 to 5 years, who have benefited tremendously from the various services of Let's Take a Look, LLC. Sincerely, Dr. Alma. Well, there you have it, folks. There's your top 5 to stay alive with some powerful testimonies. I hope you're enjoying summer. Be safe. God bless you all. Till next time we talk. This is Dr. Harry saying good day.